Let me tell you a story. Some time ago, I met an engineer from one of the biggest telecommunication corporations in Europe. He developed this amazing compression algorithm for optimizing the amount of data you have to send through the network during a phone call. And I asked about it a little bit, and he played me a sample of music and then a compressed sample, and I couldn't tell the difference. It was very impressive. However, he said that there is a problem, and the problem was with people. Ever since the algorithm was introduced by the company, it has been receiving many complaints from customers. Customers kept complaining that they couldn't understand what people were telling them on the phone. The company had to withdraw the lovely algorithm, and the poor engineer was devastated. He thought that everyone was either deaf or uncooperative. So I asked a little bit about how the algorithm works. And he told me that they flattened the sound wave a little bit by cutting off some unnecessary frequencies at the top and the bottom. And to me, immediately it became clear what exactly went wrong. You see, to an engineer, sound is sound, a substance, if you will, that you process to achieve desired results. Music, speech, noise, they may be different kinds of sound, but they are still sound. And in the end, they can be changed in similar ways. So when the engineer cut off the unnecessary frequencies, he, in his mind, was doing just that. He was compressing the data a little bit, kind of like making the font smaller to fit it in one line instead of two. However, as a linguist, I understand sound quite differently. For one, music and speech are different. Some speech sounds are called plosives, for instance. These sounds, p, t, k, b, d, g, in Polish and English, are mostly composed of silence. If we record them, then on the spectrogram they will show up as a short burst of air and then silence. These bursts of air are like signposts on your way to communication. They show you when these sounds are taking place. And these frequencies were exactly what was cut off in the engineer's optimization algorithm. So from my point of view, the engineer wasn't making the font smaller, he was cutting off the parts of the letters that were sticking out. No wonder people found the resulting text hard to understand. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Anna Jelec and I'm a linguist. Today, I'm going to tell you how metaphor can save the world. We in the humanities like to believe that we get closer to understanding what makes people tick. What do linguists do? Well, sometimes people ask me that question, and then I tell them the titles of research projects that have been conducted by myself and my colleagues. I, for instance, have been researching the role of gestures in how blind children think, but other people have been researching the understanding of sin or grammar of shame. And it seems to annoy people no end that actual money is spent on such impractical questions, because who cares what Puritan thoughts about sin? This research does not produce inventions or technologies, and not even software, although I do admit that I wrote a program in code for my project. You know what does produce those results? STEM fields, science, technology, engineering and medicine has all the shiny blinking stuff that people associate with research. People in lab coats producing results. And we as a human race are investing into STEM aspects of the academia heavily. We have been lowering funding and the prestige of humanities, and things are going great. The human race is advancing technologically. We know more. We understand more. We are nearing the scientific utopia. Or are we? In America, Great Britain and France, among other developed countries, vaccination rates against measles have fallen below 95. This is the threshold that stops this disease from spreading. Other things keep happening. Gun violence in the United States, global warming denials, rise of natural medicine rather than medical science, and some people even claim that people are tired of experts. What is going on? How come, with this heavy investment in science, we aren't any closer to scientific utopia? We like to think that smart people look at the available scientific research if they have any questions or doubt. Then they would understand that the vaccines and autism, for example, aren't linked. And we as humankind have all this knowledge, and yet more and more people don't seem to be using it. We're not learning on our past mistakes. We don't know our own history, literature, poetry. It's almost as if we were interested more in doing the science than the humans who are going to use science. Should this change? Absolutely. How can we change this? Well, metaphors. Metaphors can help you save the world. If you take a look, for instance, beyond the titles of the projects that I've shown you, you'll see that they deal with notions that lie at the heart of many of today's conflicts. Nationalism, the nature of honor and shame, who belongs and who doesn't belong in the community. These ideas are very abstract, but they are everywhere, and metaphors can tell you why people seem to understand them so differently. We all know what metaphor is. Metaphor is when we speak of something in terms of something else. Most of us are able to recognize metaphors when we see them. When Shakespeare described Juliet as the sun, we know that he did not mean that she is a literal sphere of superheated gas. He meant that she was unique and also potentially kind of hot. However, metaphor is not only found in poetry. Conceptual metaphor theory, for instance, introduced by two notable linguists, George Lakoff and Mark Johnson, in the 1980s, proposes that we are capable of understanding ideas in terms of other ideas. In fact, they go so far as to claim that we use metaphors every day, all the time. We use our physical experience to understand abstract phenomena. For example, if we say life is a journey, we will see this metaphor everywhere. Why else would you wish someone luck na nowej drodze życia or on their new life's journey when they get married? Why would you talk about overcoming difficulties or being at a crossroads? Why would you feel lost or set targets and goals for your life if not for the fact that you understand life as a journey of some kind? And if we talk about how life is not a bed of roses, it's not because some people might think that it is, but because walking your path in life, you cannot expect it to always be beautiful, soft and pleasant. And then, does this way of speaking reflect the way we think? Some psychologists have been asking this question of linguists, and well, it turns out that metaphor affects our thinking in more than one way. Metaphoric gestures are gestures that are natural, occur spontaneously, and occur even in people who are blind from birth. Koperta.
Na przykład w kopercie może być świadectwo.
Może być.
Angielska to koperta. Daria jest niegrzeczna.
The video that you've just seen is a video from my research project showing a girl who is blind from birth explaining to a computer what an envelope is. You can see that what she uses is precisely metaphor. Her shirt becomes the envelope, her chest becomes the piece of paper, and she is writing on the piece of paper to explain the function of the envelope. But she does this with the help of her own body. But surely, you might say, scientists wouldn't use metaphors. Science is very literal and concrete. Well, let's take a look. Let's assume that you're an average person looking through Google Scholar to find actual scholarly articles on the subject of vaccination. You don't want biased media reporting, we want science. So this is an example of what you would find. This is an abstract of a scientific article. Let's count how much of the text is abstract. Abstract meaning not referring to concrete physical experiences. 43 out of the 85 words used are unrelated to physical experience, which means that they are abstract, but also in turn that means that they are quite difficult to understand. Let's take a look at some examples. For instance, if we take a look at the sentence child vaccination rates remain high, we will see that first of all, this is a metaphor. And second of all, it's quite complex. It shows vaccination as a phenomenon, as a thing. Child vaccination rates, right? As if a vaccination rate was a concrete thing that you can measure. What this does is that it implies no responsibility and a certain stability of the situation. The second metaphor that you can see is higher is better. Child vaccinations remain high. This implies that more vaccinated children are better and the situation is not alarming. However, when you take a look at the actual data, 95% is a very high vaccination rate, but it is also a vaccination rate that allows measles to spread in the population. So yes, it's a high vaccination rate, but no, you shouldn't feel very peaceful about it. An alternative wording could be many parents still vaccinate their children, which would, first of all, give agency and responsibility to the children's parents, and second of all, imply that this situation may and will change. Another example is parental concern persists. If we take a look at the dictionary definition of the word persist is continue obstinately in face of opposition. This puts those parents who refuse to vaccinate their children in a way in a heroic position. They persist, they continue, what they do is actually not shown in a negative light. A phenomenon is a thing, namely another device used to get rid of responsibility in a sentence is something that you can also see in this quotation. It's not that parents are concerned, it's that parental concern exists. If you want an alternative wording of this phrase, you could use, for instance, some parents nevertheless refuse to vaccinate children, placing the responsibility for the action firmly where it belongs. The third example is the sentence, vaccine causes autism by damaging the intestinal lining, which allows the entrance of encephalopathic proteins. This is a sentence describing a theory that was tested in the research. However, inadvertently, the researchers describing the theory phrased the sentence as if there was a perpetrator and the perpetrator is the vaccine, meaning that as a result, we lose positive connotations of the word vaccine. In this sentence, vaccines are the Trojan horse for various toxins. These have been 3 examples of how objective language, scientific language, can cause problems in understanding. Can we change the relation between science, language, and general public by intervening in how certain things are described? I think we can, and here is how humanities can help you save the world. You know how sometimes it feels that communication is difficult, especially if you talk about something that is important to you with someone from a different discipline, like a linguist and an engineer. We seem to be talking about 2 different things using similar words. Sometimes when there is contact between academia and business, communication also turns out to be more difficult than originally expected. Perhaps because you just don't seem to talk about the same things in the same way. while business people might think of knowledge as a tool. Many scientists think that knowledge is an end product, a goal for them, and that these metaphors are never explicitly verbalized. We just understand certain things and assume people think in similar ways to us. But this is not true. Remember, we use our bodies to understand non-physical phenomena, but at the same time we focus on different aspects of our experience. For a business person, knowledge is just a tool to increase profit or drive brand recognition. For a scientist, knowledge is a goal that we strive to attain. Deliberate use of metaphor improves understanding between different branches of business, science, humanities, and the general public. We all use metaphors every day, but once you know what you're doing, you can communicate better. If you want to convince someone, for instance, you can use a metaphor consistent with what they believe, or one that they will find easy to relate to. For instance, when talking to an engineer, I might want to use the substance metaphor to explain what exactly went wrong in the paradigm. It's a simple step towards a better world. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a presentation on the mind and metaphor. Thank you.